right, y'all. I've been seeing a lot of content this season, much more than I think we've really ever had before. And I decided, I want to kind of throw my hat in the ring a little bit and give some more information. So, as I'm going through playoffs, I want to make these kind of post game analysis videos, just kind of pointing out things I saw both as I was playing and now after the fact. Only thing is, I probably won't be uploading these for people to see until either I'm eliminated or, of course, win out. Just because I don't really want to say anything about my team that could put me at a disadvantage. I want to be able to give a lot of opinions here and have that not be a problem. So, with that all being said, I think time for a really good game. I just played with Roku. I'm recording this the day after, and to give some general thoughts. So, first of all, I think loading in, his prep was much more tailored than mine was, and honestly, probably a little better. I was prepped very similarly to our regular season game. I have this Scarf Crobat coming in because this outspeeds Venusaur under Sun, outspeeds Lopunny, so in both of those being weak to Brave Bird, this was kind of meant to check his main threats, and then of course neither of those come, and instead Roku comes with this much slower, more kind of stally team. Um, so that really made this Crobat very useless. Although if this had been a more standard Boots or Black Sludge Crobat with Taunt and Super Fang, it would have performed very well here. But I mean, credit to his preparation. And so as I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that kind of I need to be very good in playing around my wall breakers. Of course, Chew and Rillaboom, two of the best Pokemon for that role. So that's kind of what I figured. And then again, looking at this, okay, what do I want to lead off? Rillaboom only really leads poorly into Togekiss. And I mean, other than that, I guess Haxorus if it wants to go for a first impression right off the bat. But the Haxorus, I felt like I had to switch into Slowbro, although honestly, in retrospect, that might have been a little bit of a miscalculation on my part since a first impression is still going to do a ton to Slowbro. Could potentially be a knockout. I haven't looked at the roll. And then Togekiss, though, I felt I had a pretty good switch into Florges, so neither of those scared me too much. And then anything else, Rillaboom, I'm happy to just click a button on. So we go into the first turn here. I, of course, lead Rillaboom. He leads Clodsire. I'm honestly not 100%. I don't know exactly where the Claude lead came from, but it works out, of course, for me because this is just a free Woodhammer click. I'm faster. Nothing on his team really wants to take this, except, of course, as we go to turn one, this Togekiss completely eats. This is so fat. I mean, this is Choice Band, Adamant, Woodhammer from Rillaboom in terrain, one of the strongest attacks you can really get in this league, and Togekiss takes it pretty well. So this is max. I mean, bold, full defense, everything. So I immediately realized that if I want Rillaboom to be good as a win con here, I need to make sure that I'm getting through this Togekiss. So in any case, I, of course, have to get out. And that's just a simple switch to Slowbro because I could have gone Florges, but Florges doesn't really threaten Togekiss back because I'm uninvested in attack, and Florges Moonblast just isn't enough. So with Slowbro, I'm thinking with a mixture of Future Sight and then just being able to teleport eventually into a Chi-Yu if this stays in, I can really start to put pressure on Togekiss, which I've already realized is going to be a big problem because I want to be clicking buttons with Rillaboom. So he wishes, then Toxics, Future Sight, Air Slash Flinch. I'm clicking TP there, and then I just click TP again. Those turns are all not super important. One thing is that I was okay with the Toxic because kind of late in prep, I decided I wanted aromatherapy on Florges because I thought a game like this was possible. I was especially worried about Rotom Wash, and I thought that I wanted Rillaboom to kind of be my 100% safe bring into Rotom Wash because it resists the stabs, but that opened me up to, well, what if he clicks Will-O-Wisp? And the simple answer was, okay, just bring aromatherapy. Then even if Rillaboom gets burned, I can just kind of bring in Florges, aromatherapy, get that off the books, and everything is okay. The Air Slash Flinch is a little annoying, but I'm not Mega Ink, so I'm keeping Regenerator on this. And I get this Future Sight up, which forces out Togekiss because he can't take that chip, especially if it's on a turn where I'm getting to TP out, bring in a threat, and then this is low, and it's very scary for him. So I get a teleport out. I go Florges here. I want to scare this a little bit with Moonblast. And I also want to get some momentum with the baton pass, which I believe is exactly what I click on his switch. Oh, he doesn't switch. Right. I remember now. No, he stays in and gets a light screen, which was completely not something I was expecting. This is obviously meant to be his Chiyu answer, and I knew this was going to be Spadaf. Light screen was very kind of unexpected. Not too big of a deal for me though. Um, Now again, this is a Scarf Crobat, but fortunately, I realized all I really wanted it to be was a Scarf Brave Bird bot. So I put some just utility moves besides Brave Bird U-turn with Defog and Toxic, just so it could get those off quickly. So a nice Toxic here. He comes in, hits Rotom Wash, which is super nice. This thing is very annoying for pretty much anything on my team besides Rillaboom to try to get through. And so now I'm looking at this. Okay, Umbreon is clearly his main Spadef bring. This is meant to wall Chiyu and probably can do so pretty well. Togekiss, this is his much more physical wall. This Rillaboom is Woodhammer Glide U-turn knockoff, so does not have a move that really hits Togekiss super well. I mean, Woodhammer does a bit, but it's not a two-hit KO. And then this Clodsire, I was assuming is Water Absorb, probably meant for if I bring the Water or Shifu, which I didn't. So this is probably the most disposable of these walls. And then Gold and Haxorus. Haxorus is definitely a threat. Gold, I figured probably is some kind of either choice or otherwise like some kind of meant to do damage, like some kind of special attacker, just because I think otherwise this team kind of struggles to kill things. So anyway, though, the Toxic on Rotom is really nice. It means I'm going to start accumulating chip. And then at the same time, again, it's just important to keep in mind how I'm going to win this. I think to me it was Rillaboom. I just need to get through Togekiss, and I know that this is Boots at this point since it wasn't helmets and it's not getting leftovers recovery, and so obviously that means that if I can get Rocks up with Rhyperior, then I do get a 2-hit KO on it with Woodhammer, and if I get through this, then I mean, Rillaboom is basically just a kill every time it comes in. It's super, super scary for his team. He's got a very delicate balance where he just needs to keep this Togekiss alive and healthy at all times, and rocks are a big threat. So get this Toxic. I'm going to hard switch out. I bring back in Rillaboom. Like I said, I wanted this to checks the stabs. Hydro Pump 31, it's a lot, but not too bad. And then here, I know that he's going to go to Togekiss. He's already revealed that it's a max defense, bold, everything. So there's no way that he's risking anything else. And so instead of going for damage with Woodhammer that I know he can just wish off, I knock, I get the boots, and now I know that if I get rocks up, it strengthens my position a ton. Also, rocks are just generally super strong into these kinds of more stall-oriented teams because he's going to be wanting to do a ton of switching to make sure that he always has the right wall in front of the right mon. And so if I can accumulate chip on that, that's going to really quickly, eat away at these walls. Okay, he clicks Toxic. I think that's a really smart play, especially if he thinks I'm going to stay with Rillaboom, and really it hits everything on my team except for Slowbro, but he's fine with the switching to Slowbro. He has the 100% switching to Umbreon and so on. So Toxic on Rhyperior. That's poisoned, and again, I don't mind this too much because I know I have aromatherapy on Florges. Now he protects. I think he figures that. I think he's scared I bring in Rhyperior because I want to put Stone Edge or something that can do a ton of damage to Togekiss. He's just trying to scout, but that unfortunately backfires a little bit. Well, I guess fortunately for me, as I can get my rocks up. And now this is really difficult for him because Rillaboom is very, very scary with the fact that a Woodhammer is basically a kill in almost any situation. And that's really how this game starts to play out. I know a lot of my games have centered around Chiyu being the end, and that's ultimately what happens here. But there's also this Rillaboom threat is massive. So I get the rocks, and then I believe I just go Forges here. I could be misremembering though. I do. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I go Forges. I want to get my aromatherapy off because now I've got a couple of toxic poisoned guys that I really want to keep up. And so that's exactly what I do. He's going to get rocks here. And then at this point, I have Protect. I just want to see what this Clodsire, I want to scout for a poison move. I was thinking about just going hard Rillaboom, and I'm glad I didn't because this reveals Gunk Shot here. I wanted to see before I just immediately brought in, like I said, a really big threat in Rillaboom if he had a move to hit it. He does, and I find that out. But then I baton pass on this instead of worrying about it. I would have lived a Gunk Shot, and if he keeps Clodsire in, that's just a kill with Rillaboom. With the Woodhammer, unless maybe this gold is faster and lives a Woodhammer, but I honestly, this was not something I was expecting to see come in because I thought this was meant to be more of a late game mon. Um, Rhyperior comes out. I tear it into flying. He makes it rain. I figured make it rain was coming. Just that's his strongest move and super effective if I don't Terra. Although of course he knows this is my Terra. I brought Terra flying this week just because it's good for Lopunny in this specific matchup. Maybe Terra Water would have been better, probably because I lived the hit from Golden Go. But I mean, it was still effective and it did what I needed to do, where it got this mon got rocks, tanks the make it rain, and kills back with high horsepower. High horsepower, of course, because I was bringing Rillaboom this week. Um, in this case, I didn't even bother to calculate, which I probably should have done, whether what item this gold was. So I don't know. Maybe this. I don't think this is specs damage. I guess it could be. I don't have a great feel for gold damage, but now this is good for me. He has to bring out Haxorus. I did have Outrage on Rhyperior, and that's what I clicked. I was kind of hoping he went for DD and I could just win the game outright, but that's not what happened. He just killed with the Poison Jab. This is a bold Slowbro, so I mean, I know he can't get through this with anything. Um, and he brings out Umbreon, and so I'm just going to get my future sight pressure up. I Mega Evolve here. He Toxics, which makes sense. Keep the chip in case this is some kind of setup Slowbro. I Mega because I'm clicking Body Press, and I just want to get full damage since I gain a lot of defense for Mega-ing, and that makes this hurt a lot more for him. So I'm starting to take toxic damage. He has to Moonlight because if he doesn't and I just stay in, I get my Body Press off, and then Chiyu, I think, basically just wins with Flamethrower spam. Maybe Dark Pulse actually would be the better click. Togekiss is probably 2-hit KO'd by Dark Pulse because it's not. I get my teleport though, and then this is what I'm talking about. I finally get my switch into Rillaboom, and this is really, really big problem for Roku here because no Mon can tank this Woodhammer, so something has to die because, as you'll see, he decides to sack Umbreon. This thing is just so strong, especially with Terrain, Choice Band, Adamant. I mean, it's just such a powerful move. Completely breaks Umbreon, and now he's forced to go into Togekiss, I believe, I'm sure, which takes rocks. Now, this is the luckiest turn of the game. I'll just actually play it just so everyone's aware. I crit this turn. This does about 40. I mean, it did 43 on the initial. I think that's about a normal roll on this. So he should have lived. I mean, that is super lucky for me. That made this end game, that this ends the game basically, because now he has too little in the way of resources to ever win. I do think at this point, GU has basically won just because, I mean, I don't remember the calc, but it does a lot to Togekiss with Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse, I think, basically kills everything else, especially if I just let Toxic tick for a couple turns on Rotom. And maybe I would need some chip on Clodsire, but I have enough other Mons with Crobat and everything, and Florges and Slowbro that, especially because I can get future sights, I think long term I would have been able to just win, but it would be a lot messier and there'd be room for him to outplay for sure. My thought process on clicking this Woodhammer was basically that I don't really need Rillaboom. I'm gonna win with Chiyu. I want to keep this low. Like my ideal was getting the chip with that. He clicks Air Slash, I get Chiyu, and I can just start clicking buttons. Um, but and I was thinking, more likely he's probably clicking Wish, and then his next turn he's forced into a Protect, and then I can bring Chiyu in for free. I'm clicking Flamethrower. It just honestly, I didn't even think all of that at the time. I kind of knew it felt right to click Woodhammer, and it did cross my mind. This did occur to me that if I can get this 116 crit, the game just ends because there's no way that he can really outplay anymore without this. He just, again, doesn't have enough resources. So, again, I do think long term I win this game either way, but this was super unlucky for Roku just because he would have had a lot more counterplay and been able to make this much more of a fight if he doesn't get crit here. And of course, with the crit, that goes down. He brings out Clodsire, and I'm just going to Woodhammer again, get as much as I can. Now this lives, and one thing I realized with this is if we go all the way back to turn 1, I think this Clodsire is probably his weakest Pokemon in this matchup. It's not doing a whole lot, just because it doesn't really wall anything. I mean, Rillaboom gets through it. Chiyu can get through it, I'm sure. Uh, I didn't bother to look at how phys def this was, but I can't imagine that Chiyu struggles to two-hit KO. And so by him all the way back to turn one, um, I think that it was a mistake for him on the lead to not just sack this, to not just let me get the Woodhammer damage, because I think with Woodhammer recoil plus Gunk Shot, he would have been able to kill Rillaboom, and this whole game is way different. Because, like I said at the beginning, I need to keep my wall breakers up, and he would have had an opportunity to get rid of Rillaboom immediately. And then it would have been me kind of trying to force this Chiyu win, which is really, really hard when he has a light screen Umbreon. I have body press slow bro. I have toxic on Crobat. I do have ways to get around that, but it would have gotten really messy. But again, it's really easy to say that at the end. In the beginning, there's so many different lines that it's hard to identify those types of things. If I were in his position, I think I would have also gone for the hard switch to Togekiss just because I know it's a good wall here. But it is just honestly, again, looking back, I think that would have been his best play and would have made a really interesting, different game to have explored. But that being said, the Woodhammer recoil just kills. He's clicking Gunk Shot. Doesn't matter since I die. And then at this point, I just go Chiyu, collect the kill. Pretty standard turn here. Again, this is unfortunately pretty much over. He sends out hacks. I know this is choiced, at least I'm pretty sure. I go Forges, expecting, losing Chiyu by some crazy mistake is the only way I can lose. I don't really care about Forges anymore. I figure he's probably clicking First Impression anyway. He, of course, is. And then, from here, it's unfortunately just pretty much over. I clicked Protect just to scout to make sure he was choiced. He is. He's clicking Discharge. I'm aromatherapy. Honestly, this was me trying to be like 100%. Okay, I'm just going to get Slowbro right so that I have it for Haxorus. But really here, I could have just clicked Moonblast on the last turn because I kind of realized that the game has basically, unfortunately, ended. Haxorus comes out. I kind of know it's going to go for Poison Jab, but I'm not going to play for differential like that and start switching around and doing all this. So just sack Forges, Chiyu, Dark Pulse. I knew that was going to kill. This is Specs. It was Specs Jolly, or Timid, I guess is the one for special attack. Specs Timid, where I knew that it was faster than Haxorus could be, barring a Choice Scarf, which I know it's not going to be scarfed at this point. And then with that, it goes down. So overall takeaways, I did definitely get the better end of the coin in terms of kind of luck and hacks in this game. It was pretty balanced, but yeah, no, that crit from Rillaboom was the real outlier event. Other than that, I don't think there were really any turns from either side that were super luck driven. And yeah, it was very interesting. Again, shout outs to Roku for his prep was fantastic. He had a wall for everything. I do think his team maybe had a little bit of a hard time threatening me back, especially when Gold got traded for Rhyperior, to where, he doesn't have a lot of ways to pressure me and put me in uncomfortable positions. And this whole thing is kind of me slowly positioning things like Rillaboom and Chiyu to attack kind of his Mons. But no, it was really good. Also, again, one more thing is just the prep. Like, if you go back and watch our regular season game, I'm not going to go back to that right now, but it was very different. He brought his Suncore with Ninetales and Venusaur. He brought Lopunny. Lopunny he brings almost every week. So by him going in his bag with these kind of more niche mons that he's not bringing all the time, it was much harder for me to be prepared for everything that he had, and ultimately led to definitely some uncomfortable positions for me throughout the game, especially early on as he's toxic spamming. And I'm kind of worried that I'm really, really going to struggle and fail to muscle through the team. But no, again, shout outs to Roku. Really fun game, really intense game. I love these playoff games are much better than the regular season, where I think a lot of people just don't put a ton of time in, myself included, honestly, and just bring kind of pretty standard sets all the time. And honestly, that's something I did in this game as well, because I think that's something that, yeah, I felt confident in, but I didn't really think through how creative he could get with his building. There's definitely some sets I would change. This Slowbro was pretty bad. It was just kind of a teleport pivot. Florges, I would have definitely rather had Wish than Protect looking back on it. You know, Protect was, again, you don't know when you're prepping. I figured it would be great for stalling sun turns, great for getting around fake outs from Lopunny, stuff like that. But of course, with how it played out, if I had had Wish to Wish Baton Pass into Rillaboom, then this would have been, I mean, really, really tough for Roku because his whole, you know, when you're running a stall team like this, your whole thing is trying to gradually chip away with rocks, with toxic, with statuses, and just some occasional moves. And that would have been completely impossible because I'm getting terrain, I have aromatherapy, I have wish, and everything is just staying high in HP. Um, but no, I mean, I'm excited to break down next week's game as well, and looking forward to being able to share this with everyone. So.